Orange Twist should be a very famous company at some point. It's like coffee before Starbucks and sandwiches before Subway. And I know that sounds outrageous, and I'm welcome to hear the haters hate. But I think these are lifestyle choices. They're here to stay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Technology of Beauty. I'm Dr. Grant Stevens. I'm here to interview Mr. Clint Carnell. Hi, Clint. How you doing?
Dr. Stevens, good to see you.
Oh, call me Grant.
Well, if you call me Mr., that threw me off a little bit there, Grano. So.
Okay. So before we get to Clint, I just have a full disclosure that we're friends for many years, well over 20. I think we're pushing 30, but I don't want to admit it. We're partners. We're co-founders of a company and so forth. But I can think of no one better to address the technologies of beauty and the aesthetic industry. We have the movers and shakers and the top of the field. And right now, today, right before us, we have Clint Carnell, who's going to tell us about where he's been and where he's going. And he's going to look into his crystal ball and tell us about the technologies of beauty. Welcome, Clint.
Thanks, Grant. I appreciate it. In all sincerity, thanks so much for having me on this. And this will be fun. We've never had a chance to do this on film, I don't believe.
Absolutely.
And, so
I can't wait.
Cool.
So tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit about Clint Carnell.
Sheesh, that's I have to have my therapist here, but no. As you know, I grew up in Seattle, Washington, on a farm, one of three boys, and I think I probably started a career that resembles aesthetics back when I was about 5 years old. So I've been working my entire career. I went to school back east, and I've been in healthcare pretty much all my life. And for whatever reason, I've always been drawn to businesses that have surgeons involved in them where I can help provide some of the business perspective. And that led me through ophthalmology and aesthetics. And I think back when you and I met almost in 2005, over a lawsuit was the first time we met.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't want me to use the word thermofrax.
That is true. That is true.
So I was using Fraxel and I was using Thermage, and I coined the term thermofrax. You know how I love to coin terms and brand things. And you told me to cease and desist. And so did Dennis Condon, who was taking care of Fraxel at the time.
True.
And I said, you guys should buy one another and form another company. And what did you do?
We did that. I don't.
You followed what I said.
You didn't get a deal fee, but you did make the recommendation that we did that.
And out of that came Solta.
Correct.
So tell them about Solta and then launch into Clear and Brilliant if you would.
Yeah. So I was with Bausch & Lomb in ophthalmology, spent a lot of years like kind of getting my corporate chops running the surgical division. And it was fascinating. I was there at the advent of LASIK, which was kind of the first crossover healthcare. I was looking to really run a company. And in 2005, Steve Fanning called me, who was the CEO of Solta, and said, hey, like what you're doing in LASIK, we've got this thing. It's about a $20 million company. It's almost blown up. It's almost bankrupt. It's called Thermage. We tighten skin, and we'd like you to join. And what I liked about it is it had really good backers. Versant Ventures, which has been instrumental in aesthetics and in ophthalmology, was one of the backers. And so I joined Steve in September of 2005. And like most people, as you know, had written off the company. You'd been one of the few people saying, this really works, give them a chance. And a year later, we took it public and named it Solta Medical and had a really nice run there that I'm sure we'll get into. But that's how I got into aesthetics at the time, which was crazy.
So at that time, Solta had Thermage and Fraxel, and then it morphed into Fraxel Dual. And tell us about your role in Clear and Brilliant.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so Thermage was the original. We combined it with Fraxel. They tried to have an IPO, didn't work out. So they were actually the larger company, and we combined. It was a lot of ex-Thermage people.
Okay.
We did it right before, I think we consummated the deal we decided to do July 5th of 2008, just before the world fell apart. So you may remember that we went from a run rate of almost a $180 million company to the world came to an end, almost like it did recently. The team from Fraxel and our team got held up in a 6-month deal, and we had to carefully orchestrate putting the company together. We renamed it Solta January 2nd.
Okay.
Of 2009, and it was a really, really nice run because I think those products, Thermage and Fraxel, were kind of hand in glove. They were the first two that recognized things that you did, like we need to advertise to the consumers, bring them in with these technologies. So that gave us a foundation to develop a great line of products. Clear and Brilliant, which was one of them that I think still continues to be a really successful product for Solta Medical.
Absolutely. So you left Solta, and did you go to Myoscience then?
Yeah, Myoscience. I think Steve Fanning would say the same thing. I was the COO. We'd grown from 20 some million in revenue to 160 plus. We were public. I felt like I was running the company, and like, what was the old man doing? And like a lot of young executives, I said, hey, you're making a lot more money, and why don't you like bump up to chairman and I'll be CEO? He said, nope, I got it, kid. I can't believe I kept you this long. You got to go get your own gig. So let's talk about it. Let me know how I can help you. And so over time, I ended up at Myoscience. And at that time, they believed that they could compete with Botox with a cold technology, and were ready to go. So they were looking for a commercial guy. So Steve was instrumental in helping me get that first CEO role. And it was a great exit, and that's why we still work together. He's my chairman at HydraFacial, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Right. So before HydraFacial, though, there was a certain time where you walked into Marina Plastic Surgery into room 1, and we had a little conference. What year was that?
So in 2014, I was doing some work for Covidien.
Right.
At that time, I think it was the 7th largest medical device company. Joe Almeida is an amazing CEO. And they were exploring whether they should get into aesthetics because they were all reimbursed healthcare. And so I'd done LASIK and then this crazy world of non-invasive aesthetics. And so they hired me as a CEO in residence and did quite a bit of work for them.
I remember getting together with you.
Yeah, you were one of the key interviewees. And they had decided, let's get into aesthetics, let's buy some assets, would you run it? And unfortunately for me, but fortunately for you and I, is Medtronic decided to acquire Covidien. They didn't want to get into aesthetics. But I had an amazing treasure trove of data looking at aesthetics in a really mature fashion, looking out 20 years and looking at consumer behaviors. And I think that data has been very insightful. And I think what landed me on your doorstep at Marina Plastic Surgery at the time was, you said, hey, you bum, I hear you're out of a job. Why don't you fly to LA to say, well, let's do something. So rerouted my flight. I was out of a job for the first time since probably 8 years old. And we scratched out on a napkin what's now OrangeTwist. Right. And the idea was strikingly awesome. And I think it's really coming to fruition now. So that's how we got back together in a business that I originally I think, called to sue you, and then 9 years later we're in business together.
Absolutely. So before we get to HydraFacial, let's talk a little bit more about OrangeTwist.
Sure.
The underlying philosophy was non-surgical, doctor light, ground floor, easy in, easy out, built around cool sculpting as one of a centerpiece, non-surgical body contouring, injectables, low-level lasers like Clear and Brilliant, HydraFacial, ultimately, body or skin tightening like Ultherapy or Thermage, that type of thing, and changing the user experience, right? And especially in the Dr. Light, still with high quality, delivering a reproducible, safe, excellent quality result. Yeah, and we started it first one in Newport Beach. Yeah, and we have how many now?
14. End up at 16 at the end of the year.
Okay, tell us a little bit about it. How are we doing?
Yeah, so first, at risk of complimenting the host and, totally getting thrown, I'll get lots of thumbs down.
We're already going to have the haters.
The reason, Grant, I really thought you'd be a great partner and is that you were at the forefront of how do I advertise this over internet? How do I do Google searches? How do I pay attention to the consumer experience? I mean, you took a lot of flack from your compadres, both derms and plastics, and you were watching these med spas saying, how can I be a more reputable version of them? So, whether it's Thermage, Fraxel, or any other technology, you were always at the forefront. Now you're recognized for that. I remember when you were a rebel that people were whispering about. I thought we were a great combination, that I could bring some of the how do we scale a business, and you would bring the gravitas and the, I think, brand identity for OrangeTwist. But the Covidien data that I had a chance to study was really interesting. It said what you already knew. Most people didn't know about these treatments.
Yep.
When they found out about them, almost everyone wants them. But then they find out they have to go to a plastic surgeon, a dermatologist. They're like, I'm not sure.
In a medical office building.
In a medical office building where you got a card reader, elevators, sick people, parking. So, it sounds crazy, but only 5-6 years ago when you and I decided to do this, people thought we were nuts. Now it seems like, of course you do that, but we put them in convenient locations where mom and dad are for school, golf, yoga, dance, gym. We made beautiful centers, and we trained the staff, and we chose best of breed technologies. And you're usually at the forefront of companies coming to you, and I think I'm able to look at those and how do we industrialize the treatments across a lot of centers. And man, it's been awesome. Hardest freaking thing I've ever done. You used to tell me this would be hard.
You thought it was going to be easy.
Oh my God, I thought it'd be easy, and it has not been easy, but it's been absolutely so rewarding. And hopefully you feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
Our baby's actually, somewhere between high school and college at this point.
Yeah. So we were co-founders, and it's been an interesting ride, and we're still on it, and we've got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
So after we started that ride, you joined HydraFacial.
Yeah.
Tell us all about HydraFacial, what you've done, what you inherited, and what you've done. It's remarkable what you've done.
Thanks. Well, I did some work for Alphion, obviously. Did some work for a company called Perseon to try to save at that time and getting sold. Really, a lot of that was a construct of, I thought Orange Twist is a big idea. And I think it's a tremendously... Orange Twist should be a very famous company at some point. It's like coffee before Starbucks and sandwiches before Subway. And I know that sounds outrageous, and I'm welcome to hear the haters hate. But I think these are lifestyle choices. They're here to stay. And Orange Twist, I hope, will be one of those participants in creating a really, really great category. I was living in Paris, doing work for Alphion, doing work for private equity. It was July of 16, and Linden Capital Partners called me and said, hey, your name's bouncing around. We're looking at 3 aesthetic assets, Solta, Obagi, Edge, all really good assets. It sounded fun to go back and look at Solta. Didn't feel like it was the right fit for me. Obagi, great asset. Dr. Obagi, who you've known for years, had built a great company. And then it was Edge Systems. It wasn't even the HydraFacial company.
That's right, it's Edge.
It had been around for 17 years at the time. The product had been around for 12 years. And candidly, I didn't really know about it. I think I even called you. And
you
said,
did.
I don't know if... and then
I had 3 of them.
Yeah, 24 hours later, I called back, I'll be damned, I have 3 of those. It was really a company and a product under the radar that had kind of snuck up on the aesthetics industry. And so Linden hired me to be the diligence expert and said, if we like you, you like us, and we win, then we can work out an arrangement. So that was July of 16. And I did the diligence, and then December 1st of 16, we acquired Edge Systems at that time.
And why don't you talk us through the success? What happened over the next 3 years?
Crazy. I'd love to say that I was a genius, but I was not. I stumbled and made a lot of mistakes, but we found some really interesting things. When we were doing the diligence, I'd called people like yourself and a lot of other key opinion leaders and said, do you know about this? And most of you politely said, not really. But I think, fill in the blank esthetician does this. You'd call me back 24 to 48 hours. Hey, that seems like it works pretty well, but I don't pay attention to it. That was an interesting insight. The consumer data and the customer data use the word love. I love the treatment. And I was like, wow, companies spend billions for love. I've been in aesthetics for 13 years. I've never heard of this love product. And then they say, but we need more support. We need more training. I'm not sure about my rep support. Like there was a lot of buts, but the buts were all things that are fixable. Training, support, marketing, better products. So we embarked upon a journey. We upgraded and replaced some of the management team. We created a razor blade sales force. We renamed the company, the HydraFacial company. And we just started to focus on what she, and by she, the esthetician, said she wanted from us. And it's interesting, 65-70% of our channel, the physicians are the buyers, but the esthetician is the provider. And so the interesting insight for us was that a lot of medical companies had been walking past the esthetician for years, going to the doctor, right? They go see Dr. Stevens, they'd ignore the esthetician. She's actually a lot more influential than most people know in the practice.
Absolutely.
She's like the nurse in the hospital where the doctor closes the door and the patient turns to the nurse. So we started to focus on the esthetician and her voice. We started to improve the technology, the serums, the boosters, and the training. And what we found is that our physician partners really appreciated that because people started to ask for HydraFacial by name. So we just tried to create this company that was an and company. We want to make everybody else's technology better everybody make more money, more consumers come in. And so we didn't have a natural competitor. We just tried to be like a healthy participant in the ecosystem. So there was a couple weird things that, maybe it's because I hit 50 this year, I just wanted to be a good dude with a good company, helping people make money and bring more consumers in. And I think that's benefited our little company. And that's where just magically the revenues and earnings have taken off. So I'd love to say there was a magic bullet. There was really just like, let's do things the way we'd like to do them as a 50-year-old CEO.
And you mentioned it was a number of factors that went into it, and you orchestrated it, and that's fantastic. And now it's a household word. I mean, HydraFacial went from Hydra what to, it's Hydra. I'm sorry, I said Hydra, and I'm in trouble for saying that. In any event, HydraFacial. Now, before we get into your crystal ball for aesthetics, can I ask you where HydraFacial is going? A lot of people want to know.
Yeah.
What's next for HydraFacial?
Yeah. So the flattering thing was we were on a rocket ship. We were growing at 50% top line, 50% bottom line. This year we would have done over $250 million in revenue, so probably 5x the company in 3.5 years.
Amazing.
It's not a secret. We were in a transaction to go to other private equity firms, and then the world stopped. So in mid-March, we were growing at 60%, having over $20 million month. And, 4 days later, we were furloughing, over 75% of our employees. So like a lot of companies in our space, but probably because we were in a process, damaged much more. It was like mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
Same thing happened to OrangeTwist. We had to furlough everybody. And look, in March, we didn't know if we were all going to die within the next couple of weeks. That was scary. I'm really proud of the team. And the team amazingly did terrible things where you have to lay off a lot of your friends. You have to furlough them, things that you don't ever want to do as an executive. But what we found is in the last 4 months, the space is definitely here. Aesthetics are lifestyle choices. That I'm not even sure we knew that in 2008. In 2020, I'm a betting man. This is something that's here to stay, and it's a huge phenomenon. Maybe even bigger with the Zoom faces, right?
Right. The boomer lifts.
Yeah, we used to say that millennials were maybe they were narcissistic. They were just ahead of their time. Now us old people know that when you're looking at your face all day, you need to get this stuff. So I think that's been good for the space. And what we didn't know is how would HydraFacial react in that? And so HydraFacial has come back very, very strong. And we had negative $800,000 in sales in April.
Okay.
But we've come back roaring, and we're only 20% off of where we were at the height. So fantastic. I feel really good with June, July. We're always concerned about what's these spikes look like, Sustainability. But I think if you believe in the macro and you believe in HydraFacial and you believe in humanity, like that's a pretty good trifecta. So we're very optimistic. And trying to get our employees back as quickly as we can, trying to bring our customers up as fast as we can, and trying to ensure the consumer that we're a safe, viable treatment and we can get you back into the office. That's what we're doing.
That's great. Any new technology you're going to strap on to HydraFacial you can share with, or is it all top secret?
Yeah, I'll go high level, which will probably be irritating to some people, but we've just reshaped our 5-year strategy. And we're HydraFacial, we have over 16,500 providers. Globally. This year we would have done over 5 million treatments. So it's a substantial, our treatments only cost $150. Our consumables on $25, $30. So that's a lot of treatments to get the size we are. I believe we can be a really helpful influencer company for just, in general, professional medical aesthetic treatments. If you look at the Allergans of the world have done an amazing job with Botox, and you look at newcomers like Revance and all those in between, Merz, Galderma, that created the category.
Sure.
And then you look at the allure and commercial of L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, all the companies on the consumer side. HydraFacial is really comfortable being in all of those places. So Sephora is our largest account. Plastic surgeons have the most multiple units, and Caesar's Palace has the most systems in one space. So we've got this interesting omnichannel that I think allows us to introduce consumers to things that you do that eventually end up in your office. And our goal is just bring the 9 out of 10 people that should be getting professional medical aesthetic treatments into the category. Because once they do, they're hooked, they realize what they are, they trust, and we can take them up the journey. That's what we're doing.
So you're sort of the gateway drug, introducing the aesthetics to everybody.
Trying.
And omnichannel, I like that.
Yeah,
you
it's
really
fun.
Are.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's when we first came in, and you certainly were close to it when Sephora had a pilot with us, I thought, gosh, if Sephora has it in there, all the doctor friends are going to, call me threatening to kill me. And we had a fair amount, but Aaron Morrissey, who you obviously know well, did an amazing job. We said, no, we're holding the line. We're going to tell people that we think we're getting them early in the journey. They'll be in the derm and the plastics office, but we'll help guide them there. And I think that's been really beneficial. And for some reason, our physician channel has embraced that and said, we get what you guys are doing.
Well, it's working.
Yeah, we try to be very, I hate the word now because it's overused, authentic. But we just tried to do, we think this is good for the space. And good for the space is good for all of us. And so that's put us in a unique position to be friends with all of the people that typically compete with each other. And that's been kind of unique for what we do.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Sephora,
I
understand we're in Sephora. I was there at the grand opening, so that's a little
We are, it's inside information.
Inside information.
And we're not public yet, so you can't trade on that information. Yeah.
So before we go into the crystal ball, what's that look like in Saks Fifth Avenue? What's going on with that?
Yeah. So I think what's been fascinating to me is in say traditional aesthetic energy devices or pharmaceutical aesthetics, people talk about core versus non-core, and you've certainly been criticized for talking to non-core when you're the top of the core. I inherited a company that had Sephora, Equinox, Lifetime, Caesar's Palace, Dr. Grant Stevens, right?
Right. The whole
Dr. Doris Day. I mean, I was across, and every med spa.
Yep.
We had to decide, do we put the genie back in the bottle or just let it roll? So we decided to let it roll and figure it out. And I think what we found through our data, Boston Consulting Group's done some great work for us. Eddie Yoon with Super Consumers. The consumer's everywhere, and she and he are choosing where they want to learn about this stuff. And so what we have seen over the last 3 or 4 years, it's not a crystal ball, but I do think that traditional retail, traditional medical, traditional med spa and wellness, they're all collapsing into these hybrids. And it's based upon when he or she are learning about what they want to do for themselves, these experiences. So, our Sephora relationship has blossomed globally. That team is amazing, and it will be a global partnership with our Perk by HydraFacial. About a year and a half ago, Artemis and Priya and Bridget called and said, hey, take off your HydraFacial hat and put on your orange twist hat. Would you be interested in putting an orange twist in Sephora? I'm like, wow, that's crazy. They're like, it's not as crazy as you think. You should see our data. Where they're shopping, they want what you have. We don't know what you guys do. We don't know what we do. And it's interesting when you talk, I just talked to a very well-known executive from one of the high-end cosmetic companies a couple weeks ago. She knows nothing about medical aesthetics, but she's in the demographic. She should be getting these treatments. She knows all the names, and she just keeps saying, does it work? And I've noticed with a lot of our team, they don't know what great high-end cosmetics, coloring, hair products are. So for whatever reason, the L'Oreals have been over here and the Allergans over here, and they don't talk to each other.
That's interesting.
And so I think what we'll see, if I had to say my crystal ball, I think that we'll all become much more attuned to how he and she wants to experience our treatments. And if we stop forcing them into where we want them to contact us, I think the whole industry will grow. Because a lot of it's based upon, is it experience or results, and what's their pocketbook? And are they ready? So I think if we just
And what are they ready for?
And what are they ready for?
Because ultimately, myself as a plastic surgeon, my end game is surgery. But the non-surgicals feed the surgery, just as perhaps the Sephoras feed the orange twists and vice versa. It's a symbiotic relationship for sure.
I mean, you were the first, one of the first to recognize plastic surgeons really don't want to do lasers and non-invasive aesthetics, right? You guys want to be cutting,
right?
But you need those people because
the feeder,
and
it optimizes our patient experience.
So the learning for me, Grant, has just been we just need to broaden the way we look at the consumer and be patient. That when he or she comes in, our job is to give them trust and confidence in what we're telling them and providing them. And I think if we do that, the category is going to be enormous. So I just hope to be a healthy participant in that category, but that's the crystal ball.
So in closing, I would like you to look into your crystal ball and think about the unmet needs or inadequately met needs. What do you see over the next 5 to 10 years? You've talked about the delivery systems, and I agree with you. But in terms of the needs that we're going to correct or fix or the technologies, what do you see over the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think first on the good thing, the technology has gotten a lot better. I think we've all gotten better at developing them, delivering them. The physicians have gotten better. Their staffs have gotten better. So I think on balance, that does it work? We can say yes. Okay. I don't think things that don't work anymore get to the market. I think, in 05, 06, you and I have seen a lot of, crash and burns. Mm-hmm. I think dogs have a hard time getting out of the pound at this point.
I agree.
And that's good. Because I think still the question is what works, how much does it cost, does it hurt? Mm-hmm. Those are still the three questions that I've seen you in consultations. Right. You're amazing at answering. The technologies have gotten better. They will change. We will have disruptive innovation, I think, on energy devices, on toxins, on fillers, on things we don't even know about yet. And I think it's a better ecosystem to incubate those because the garbage gets thrown out earlier. Mm-hmm. I think what we still have work to do as an industry is it's very confusing. I mean, hell, I'm in the business. All the skincare companies give me stuff. I've got all access to all the technology, and I'm a dude that's in the demographic, and I'm confused.
Right.
So I still think we have a lot to do as an industry to try to simplify the message, to try to bring people in, give them an environment that's easy to transact. And I think we need to make them more approachable for gender, skin color, and pocketbook. Because I think, the classic, she's white, she's 45, she lives in Beverly Hills, she has 2 kids. It's just that's why it's made it a very small market. So if we can be more, and I just even can't stand even using the word now, inclusive, I think we'll find it'll be a better journey. We're lucky with HydraFacial. We work for all skin types. We're really accessible. We're for young. We're for old. It works. You feel great. Looks good. Doesn't hurt. And you got a clinical result with the crap floating around in the gunky. I think, that's different than the things that you do. I mean, we just met with an awesome patient of yours off air, and what you do, HydraFacial can't do. And we shouldn't be competing.
No, it's a continuum.
We get you in there, and he or she finds out what you can do. That's amazing. And you've done one of the most conclusive studies on lifetime value of a patient. Mm-hmm. I only know of maybe 5 physicians around the world that even look at it that way, right? So I think as business people, as technologists, as physicians, we've got to think about it that way because everybody has skin. Everybody wants to look as good as they feel. There's an emerging upper middle class. And so I think we just need to democratize these things. I mean, it's silly that we don't have the largest healthcare market in the world because nobody wants to have a colonoscopy or a pacemaker. Everybody wants to look as good as they feel inside. So we should have the largest market in healthcare, and I hope that I am participating long enough to see that become a reality.
Oh, I'm sure you will be. And we'll be doing it together.
Well, you're not going anywhere. I mean, only the good die young. You and I are stuck on this earth for a while, right? So,
well, once again, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I want to have you back on the show again.
Thanks,
once you do the new developments with HydraFacial, and wish you all the very best.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today on the Technology of Beauty, where the movers and shakers in the aesthetic business are here sharing all their information and looking into their crystal balls. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Mr. Clint Carnell.
Dr. Stevens, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Cheers.